Brother walked into my penthouse like he owned it. He didn't knock. He never knocked. He just used the spare key my mother had apparently kept a copy of, the one I'd given her 2 years ago when I still believed that having family clothes was a privilege and not a liability. I was standing at the kitchen island in my robe, holding a mug of coffee that had just hit the perfect temperature, watching the CN Tower catch the early November light over Lake Ontario. It was 7:42 in the morning. I had a board meeting at 9. And my brother was pulling a rolling suitcase through my front door with the same expression he wore when he was 7 and wanted the last piece of cake. Like it was already his, and I was just holding it temporarily. My mother came in behind him, then my father. They had luggage. I put down my coffee. Lenny, back up, because you need to understand what the 3 years before that morning looked like. I'm 31. I run a software company I built from a $17,000 line of credit, a second-hand MacBook, and the kind of stubborn refusal to fail that only comes from having nothing left to lose. We do workforce scheduling software for mid-size healthcare clinics across Ontario and BC. Nothing glamorous, no viral moment, no Dragon's Den pitch, no weekend feature in the Globe and Mail. Just slow, grinding, compounding work. I quit my job at a financial consulting firm in downtown Toronto when I was 27. I'd been there 4 years. I was good at it. My parents had been proud of me in the particular way that parents who immigrated and worked themselves hollow are proud, quietly, practically, in the form of telling other people's parents at dinner parties. When I quit, that pride evaporated. My father didn't speak to me for 6 weeks after I told him. Not the dramatic, door-slamming kind of silence. The worst kind, the functional silence, where he'd still be at the dinner table, still pass the salt, still answer direct questions in one syllable, but otherwise act as though the chair I was sitting in was empty. My mother handled it differently. She talked constantly, but never about what I was doing. She'd call twice a week and fill 45 minutes with updates about relatives I barely knew, neighbors, the church renovation, my brother's new car, anything except my company, which she referred to for the first 8 months as that computer thing. My brother, he was enthusiastic, actually. In the beginning, he asked questions, said it sounded interesting, told me he believed in me. I was grateful. I held on to that. Then the company started doing well. Not rich overnight well, not even comfortable at first, but the kind of well where the bank stops sending you anxious automated emails, where you can replace a broken appliance without doing math first, where you sign a lease on an actual office instead of working from your kitchen table in a one-bedroom in Scarborough. When I moved into the penthouse in Liberty Village, I bought it, didn't lease it, which is the detail I'm sure made its way through the family network within 72 hours. Something shifted. My parents started calling more. My mother started asking about the company, using its actual name. My father made a joke at Christmas. My brother started introducing me to his friends as my sister, the CEO, with a particular emphasis that I recognized but couldn't name at the time. I should have named it then. I was too busy being relieved. The condo is on the 34th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 sides. I'd furnished it carefully over time, the way you do when you've spent years making deliberate decisions about money. It wasn't ostentatious. It was just mine. The first space I'd ever had that reflected exactly who I was, without compromise or apology. My brother set his suitcase down next to my couch. "We need to stay for a bit," he said. Not asked, said. I looked at my mother. She was studying the view with the careful attention of someone who is deliberately not making eye contact. "What's going on?" I asked. My father cleared his throat. He does this when he's about to say something he has rehearsed. "Your brother is in a difficult situation. We've been helping him, but we've reached our limit. You have space here. It makes sense." My brother's difficult situation. I would learn the full scope of it over the next hour. Sitting at my own kitchen island while my coffee went cold. Was this? He had co-signed on a restaurant venture with a friend 18 months ago. The friend had walked away. My brother had kept running it, badly, and then stopped running it while continuing to be legally responsible for it. There is a CRA issue. There is a secret he owed money to. There is a line of credit at TD that had been maxed and minimum payments only for over a year. The number my father quoted me when he finally quoted it was $74,000. "That's what he needs to get clear," my father said, "to start fresh." I said nothing. My mother turned from the window. "You're in a position to help. That's a blessing, Circe. You should treat it like one. There it was. My name, which they'd been saying correctly my whole life, the Irish spelling chosen by my mother from a name book she'd loved, deployed now like a key turning in a lock. I should treat my financial position as a blessing. I should treat their arrival with suitcases, unannounced, at 7:42 on a Tuesday morning, as an opportunity to be grateful. I have a board meeting in an hour and 15 minutes, I said. This is more important than a meeting, my father said. I want to be precise about what happened in the 3 years they weren't speaking to me properly because it matters. When I left the consulting firm, I had $31,000 in savings. I used $17,000 to incorporate, buy equipment, and cover my first 3 months of operating costs. I lived on the remaining $14,000 plus a very lean freelance income while the company found its footing. I did not ask my parents for money. I did not ask my brother for money. I did not ask anyone. I ate a lot of rice and frozen vegetables, and I worked 14-hour days, and I did not complain about any of it. Not once, not to them. During that time, my parents helped my brother buy his first car, a used Civic, which is completely reasonable and not the point. The point is that when I mentioned, once, that I was having a slow month and was thinking about picking up some contract work to bridge a gap, my mother said, "Well, that's what happens when you leave a good job." And then she changed the subject. I did not get a co-signed loan. I did not get a top-up. I did not get a "we believe in you" check. What I got was a lot of silence and one very memorable Easter dinner where my father said within earshot of me that he hoped I had a backup plan. I had a backup plan. The backup plan was to not fail. So I didn't. My brother was sitting on my couch now, scrolling his phone with the ease of someone who has already decided the hard part is over. My mother had found the French press and was making herself at home in my kitchen. My father stood near the window with his hands clasped behind his back, looking satisfied in a way that made my teeth hurt. "I need you to leave," I said. My mother set down the coffee canister. My father turned. My brother looked up. "I have a meeting," I said. "I need to get ready. I need you to take your bags and go, and we can have a conversation tonight if you want. But right now, I need my home." Sours they. My father's voice had that particular weight in it. "We are your family." "I know who you are," I said, "and I'm asking you to leave my home." My brother stood up. He was doing the thing where he makes himself slightly bigger, squares his shoulders, uses height as punctuation. He's 4 inches taller than me. It has worked on me before, not in this room. "You have 4 bedrooms," he said. "You live here alone. You have more money than you need. The least you can do." "The least I can do," I repeated. "Okay, tell me, what did you do for me when I was bootstrapping, when I was eating crackers for dinner, when I was sleeping 4 hours a night trying to make payroll? What was the least you did for me then?" He had nothing. He opened his mouth and he had nothing in it. "There's a hotel 2 blocks west," I said. "The Broadview. It's nice. You'll like it. I'll call you tonight." I held the door. They looked at each other with the silent communication of people who expected a different outcome. My mother picked up her bag. My father followed. My brother was last. He paused at the door. "You've changed," he said. "Yes," I said. "I have." I made the board meeting. I was 4 minutes early, actually. I sat at the head of the table, and I ran through the Q3 numbers, and I answered questions about our expansion timeline into Alberta, and I did not think about my family at all, which is either a sign of excellent compartmentalization or something a therapist might want to look at. Probably both. It wasn't until I was walking back from the office at noon, I walk when I need to think, south along Strachan, down toward the lake, that I let myself feel the actual shape of what had happened that morning. $74,000. They had shown up at my home with luggage at 7:42 in the morning without calling, having apparently kept a key I gave my mother for emergencies, to ask me for $74,000 for a problem my brother had spent 18 months creating and ignoring. And the argument, the actual argument for why I should do this, was that I had space and money and family is family. Not, "Here's how he'll pay you back." Not, "Here's what he's doing to fix it." Not even, "We're sorry we treated you the way we did for 3 years." Just, "You have it. He needs it. Give it." I sat on a bench near the water. A couple was walking a very old golden retriever who moved with enormous dignity. I watched them for a while. I called my lawyer. Her name is not important for this story, but she's been my corporate counsel since year 2, and she is the kind of lawyer who speaks in complete sentences and never sounds alarmed, which is exactly the quality you want in someone you call when you are sitting on a cold bench in November, figuring out what to do about your family. I explained the situation. She listened without interrupting. "Do you want to help him?" she asked when I finished. "I want to understand what I'm looking at," I said. "Okay," she said, "let's understand it." She asked me to send her whatever documentation my brother could produce. The CRA notice, the TD statements, the supplier agreement. She said she'd have a clearer picture by Friday. She also said, almost as an aside, if the supplier debt is the most pressing piece, there are ways to structure that which might be interesting to you, depending on what you want the outcome to look like. "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means that if someone purchases the debt rather than your brother paying it directly, that someone becomes a creditor," she said. "And creditors have options that debtors' families do not." I sat with that for a moment. "Send me the numbers," she said. I called my brother that evening. I told him I needed to see everything, all of it, the real numbers, not the summarized version my father had given me that morning. I told him if he wanted my help, he needed to show me what he actually owed and to whom. He was resistant at first. There was a lot of, "Why does it matter? I just need the money." And "I didn't come here to be interrogated." I said I wasn't interrogating him. I was doing what any responsible person does before they move $74,000. That reframed it. He sent me the documents that night. The real number, once my lawyer looked at it, was closer to $68,000. The CRA issue was overstated in my father's telling, which was not a surprise. The supplier debt was $31,000, the TD line was $22,000, and there was a smaller amount owed to a former employee for unpaid wages, which bothered me the most. The employee piece needs to be paid immediately, regardless of anything else, I told my lawyer. She agreed. We dealt with that first. I paid it directly, $2,200. I told no one I'd done it, and I did not tell my brother it was a condition of proceeding. I just paid it because someone had shown up to work and not been compensated, and that had nothing to do with family dynamics. What came next was my lawyer's idea. But I want to be honest. When she explained it, I felt something click into place that I had not known was loose. The supplier debt, the $31,000, was held by a local food service distributor. They were willing, as many creditors are, to take a reduced settlement on old debt, rather than pursue collection. My lawyer negotiated them down to $24,000. Then she arranged for my company to purchase the debt. Not pay it off, purchase it. My brother now owed $24,000 at a structured repayment schedule, not to a distributor who could garnish and sue and make his life difficult, but to a numbered company that I controlled. He signed the paperwork on a Thursday afternoon in my lawyer's King Street office. My lawyer was there. I was there. He was there with his own counsel, a friend of a friend who apparently owed him a favor, who reviewed the documents and confirmed they were legitimate and fair. My father had asked to be present. I'd said no. This was between me and my brother, and I needed it to stay that way. My brother read the documents. He asked a few questions. His lawyer answered them. He looked at me across the table. "This is a good deal for you," his lawyer said quietly, better terms than you'd get from most. My brother signed. There's a moment that I keep coming back to, and it's not the signing. It's what happened after, when we were putting on our coats in the elevator lobby, and my brother said, very quietly, "Why did you do it this way? Why not just give me the money?" I thought about it. "Because if I gave you the money," I said, "in 6 months, when the TD line is maxed again or there's another thing, you'd come back. And I'd be the person who gives you money when things get hard. And that's not who I want to be for you." He stared at the elevator door. "This way," I said. "You have a payment schedule. You have something to actually meet. And I'm not your bank. I'm your creditor. It's cleaner." "Cleaner," he repeated. "Yeah." The elevator came. We rode it down in silence. On King Street, he turned west and I turned east. And neither of us said anything further, and that felt, for the first time in a very long time, like the right amount. My parents did not understand the arrangement at first. My mother called me twice in the 2 days after the signing, asking why it had to be so complicated and why I couldn't have just been generous. I told her I had been generous. I told her the terms were fair and my brother had agreed to them with his own counsel present. It doesn't feel like family, she said. A lot of things haven't felt like family, I said, and I kept my voice level because I had decided a long time ago that I would not have this conversation from a place of hurt. But he's going to be fine. The debt is structured, the terms are manageable, and nobody is going to the CRA. She went quiet. I know the last few years were hard on all of us, I said, but I need you to trust that I handled this correctly. She didn't say she trusted me, but she didn't argue either. And from my mother, in this particular territory, that was close enough. My father called a week later. He called on a Sunday morning, which he almost never does. Sunday mornings are for church and then reading, and phone calls are for evenings. I knew before I picked up that he had something specific to say. I owe you an apology, he said. I sat down. When you left your job, I thought you were making a mistake, a serious one. I was hard on you in a way that was not fair. He paused. You have built something real. I see that now. I should have said it sooner. I didn't say yes, you should have. I didn't say it hurt more than you know. I said, thank you for saying it. Because I meant that part, the saying of it. After 3 years, the saying of it mattered. Your brother will pay you back, he said. He will, I said. The schedule is reasonable. He can do it. Good. Another pause. You handled it well. We talked for another 20 minutes about other things. My aunt's hip replacement, a cousin's engagement, whether I was going to come home for Christmas, normal things. The kind of conversation I'd been waiting 3 years to have again. My brother made his first payment in December, on time, without reminder. He sent an e-transfer with a note that just said, first one. I confirmed receipt and sent back a short automatic payment record from the numbered company as agreed. No drama, no warmth, exactly, but no hostility either. Just a transaction documented properly between two people who are related and are figuring out what that means. I've thought a lot in the months since about what I actually wanted from all of this. I didn't want to punish him. I didn't want to hold something over his head. I didn't want the money back, particularly. I mean, I'll take it. It's a reasonable return, but that wasn't the point. The point was simpler than that. The point was, I needed this to be something he earned his way out of, not something he received. Because the version of us where I just wrote a check, that version is one where nothing changes, where the dynamic that let my father walk into my home with luggage and a list of demands is still intact, where my success is communal property that can be invoiced against whenever someone needs it. This version is different. In this version, I have edges. I have terms. I have a lawyer and a numbered company and a payment schedule. And when my brother makes that monthly transfer, something is being reestablished between us. Something that looks like respect, even if we don't use that word for it yet. My friend, she's known me since university. She was with me through the whole startup grind. She was the person I called the night my first real enterprise client signed. She asked me last spring if I regretted the way I handled it. No, I said. Not even the numbered company thing? That's very cold, Sarasa. It's precise, I said. Cold and precise are different. She thought about that. Fair enough. The building security has since been instructed. No one gets up without being announced. It's a policy I probably should have had in place already. I've made a few of those corrections in the past year. Small procedural things that I'd let slide because I'd been so focused on building the company that I'd forgotten to build the perimeter around the life I was building it for. The key. The spare key my mother had kept. I asked for it back at Christmas. She handed it over without comment. I had the lock changed anyway, not because I don't trust her, but because it was the right thing to do, and I should have done it sooner, and I'm learning to take the right actions without waiting for a reason dramatic enough to justify them. The TD line is my brother's to resolve on his own. That one I left alone as a test of sorts. A way of seeing whether the structure we'd built would motivate him to handle the rest of his situation, or just the piece I was attached to. Last month, he texted me unprompted to say he'd called TD about a debt consolidation option. Asked if I thought it was a good idea. I said it depended on the rate and the term and told him what questions to ask. He thanked me. It was a small thing, just a text, but I'd been doing this long enough to know that the small things are usually where the real information is. The company closes its Series A in March. My lawyer is handling the term sheet. My board is happy. My Alberta expansion is on track. And every morning when I stand at my kitchen island with coffee that's exactly the right temperature and watch the light come in off the lake, I feel something I spent a long time not being sure I get to feel. Not vindicated, not superior. Just settled. Like the ground under me is something I actually built, and it holds. I think about the moment my brother signed those documents. Not with resentment, not with triumph, just with something quiet behind his eyes that looked like the beginning of understanding. And I think about what it actually took to get to that table, not just the legal structure, not just my lawyer's steady voice on a cold November bench. What it took was 3 years of building something without anyone's permission, and another 3 of being treated like that building didn't count. What I know now is that none of it was accidental, not the way my parents went silent when I left my job. Not the way they reappeared with suitcases once the penthouse existed. Cause and effect doesn't stop being real just because the people inside it refuse to name it. My father's silence planted something in me. Not bitterness, though there was some of that too, but a kind of self-reliance that I genuinely don't think I would have developed any other way. Being left alone to figure it out, even when it was hard and unfair and lonely, meant that when the hard thing arrived at 7:42 on a Tuesday, I already knew what I was made of. That's the part I didn't expect. That being cut off would eventually feel like being handed something. I won't romanticize it. The crackers for dinner years were not character building in the moment. They were just hard. But I made a decision, somewhere in the middle of them, that I was not going to solve my problems by making them someone else's. I was going to earn my way through properly with real numbers and real accountability. And when my brother's crisis landed in my living room, I applied the same logic. Not out of coldness, out of the understanding that genuine care sometimes looks like holding a line instead of opening a checkbook. There's a version of me that writes to $74,000 and feels generous, but that version also creates a version of my brother who never has to sit across a table from his own situation and sign his name to it. The structured debt wasn't punishment. It was the same respect I'd shown myself. The belief that a person is capable of meeting what they owe, if you give them the right conditions to do it. My friend called it cold. I think what she meant was that it required me to stay clear-headed in a moment designed to make me emotional. And it did require that. It required me to separate what I felt from what I knew, to use what I'd learned about money, about legal structure, about how to read a balance sheet in service of something that actually helped rather than just felt good in the moment. I'm not sure I could have done that at 24. I don't think I had the steadiness yet. It took years of building something under pressure, of making decisions with real consequences, of learning to trust my own judgment when everyone around me was skeptical. It took all of that before I could sit at a boardroom table on King Street and feel completely calm. The ground holds because I built it. That's the only thing I know for certain. And when you build your own ground, you get to decide what stands on it and what doesn't.